Good morning, children. I hope all of you are doing well at home and safe. Today, we are going to do the second chapter of literature, which is a very interesting poem, A Little Grain of Gold, written by the famous Indian English poet Rabindranath Tagore. And this poem is actually one of the songs from the most famous book of Tagore, that is Gitanjali, which was published in the year 1912. Okay, so it's actually a song, a parable, you can say a moral story. The poem is actually conveying a moral. So it's like a moral story, and we will we really learn a good message from the poem. So let's start with a brief introduction about the author. As I told you, the poem is written by Rabindranath Tagore. He was born in the year 1861 and died in the year 1941. He was born in Kolkata, and he was the first Indian English writer to win the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1913. He was multifaceted. Multifaceted means he was a writer, a musician, a painter, and an educationist. He was actually a man of genius who wrote poems, short stories, and critical essays. He used to write about, a critical appreciation of others' works. Then, of course, he's very famous among everyone as he composed our national anthem, Janagana Man. Then he has been the founder of the world famous educational center, that is Shanti Niketan. And the Nobel Prize which he has won, it is for his most famous work, Gitanjali, which is actually a collection of song offerings, collection of poems which celebrate the glory of God. So this poem that we are going to discuss today is actually the 50th song of this famous book Gitanjali. So let's begin with the poem. Before that, what is the central idea of the poem? Let me quote, a famous quotation by Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister. He once said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." What is the meaning of this? What he's trying to say? By living means surviving. For surviving, what do? We get things from the environment, we earn and we grab things from the environment for our living. It can be a beautiful house, money, a car, a mobile phone. So these are all the endless wants and wishes of humans. So we make a living by what we get. We survive by the things we desire in life. But we make a life by what we give. Making a life is completely opposite to living. Making a life means we can make a life by helping others, by standing beside others, and by sympathizing with them. Being human, being full of love and compassion for others. So this poem also is giving you two important messages. One is, most important is the importance of giving. We should learn the importance of giving. We should not just be, just takers, selfish and greedy, always having a list of wishes for ourselves. The best example will be nature. You must have seen nature is the biggest example. Trees, as you must have studied in science also, trees give us so many things. But do they expect anything in return? Do they expect any favor in return? No. So that kind of giving the poet is emphasizing. We should be willing to give. We should learn the importance of giving without expecting anything in return as a favor. Another important message is that God, He tests. This actually confirms the presence of God. God, tests its devotees through many ways. And if we don't learn this important lesson of giving, what happens? That will come to know once we discuss the poem. So first, I'll give a quick reading to the poem. As the introduction says, through this poem, the poet is talking about the willingness to give something without expecting any favor in return, without expecting any help in return. We should not give someone, help in order to get help back. I had gone a begging from door to door in the village path, when thy golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream, and I wondered, who was this king of all kings? My hopes rose high, and methought my evil days were at an end, and I stood waiting for alms to be given, unasked, and for wealth scattered on all sides in the dust. The chariot stopped where I stood. Thy glance fell on me, and thou camest down with a smile. I felt that the luck of my life had come at last. Then, of a sudden, thou didst hold out thy right hand and say, what hast thou to give to me? Ah, what a kingly jest! Was it to open thy palm to a beggar to beg? I was confused and stood undecided. And then from my wallet, I slowly took out the least grain of corn and gave it to thee. But how great my surprise when at the day's end I emptied my bag on the floor to find a least little grain of gold among the poor heap. I bitterly wept, and I wished that I had the heart to give thee my all. A beautiful poem, You will not find any rhyming scheme as we usually find, words rhyming with each other. It is like a story, a narrative. Okay, so let's discuss the poem line by line now. So the first stanza you've already seen. I've read the poem aloud. Let's discuss now line by line. The poet, the poem, the speaker is the poet who is a beggar actually. The poet himself is acting as a beggar, and the whole poem is in first person. You will find the use of the word I. So I here refers to the first person. The whole poem is in first person. What is the beggar telling us? That I had gone a begging from door to door in the village path, when thy golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream. What is the poet telling? One day, while he was, begging from one door to the other in the village path, he suddenly saw something unusual, something which was unexpected at that place. A beautiful golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream. Now, what is the meaning of chariot? You can see it on the screen on the right side. The word chariot means an open vehicle with two wheels which are pulled by horses. It was used in ancient times. If you're watching Ramayana these days, you must be seeing so many of them. The kings used to travel by the chariots. So, what unusual thing happens, while walking on the street, begging from one door to the other, from one house to the other, suddenly the beggar saw a golden chariot. Now, this word die, actually it's classical. It was a word used in, you will find other words also, in the poem, which were used in classical English, old English, for poetic purposes or for religious purposes. So the word die, the second line means your. When your golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream. Gorgeous means a very beautiful dream, unexpected, full of pomp and splendor, just like a beautiful dream. It doesn't seem real. And I wonder, I thought, who was this king of all kings? Now, this king of all kings actually is none other than God Himself. That is why the phrase the king of all kings is referred. It refers to the Almighty, the supreme ruler of the universe, the God. So he almost felt that as if God has come down on earth on this beautiful chariot. My hopes rose high, and me thought. You see the formation of sentence me thought. Instead of saying I thought, it's again the poetic, you can say, the poetic relaxation of the use of words. So he says, my hopes rose high. Now, rose here does not mean the rose flower. Rose is actually the past tense of the verb rise. So, rise means rising high in level. So, his hopes rose high that since the king of all kings is here, so the beggar was very positive now. He thought, my evil days, my evil means his bad days, the days of poverty, will soon now come to an end. And I stood waiting for alms to be given unasked. What are alms? The word alms here means the money, the clothes, and the food that are given to poor people. The donation or the charity that we give to the poor people is termed as alms. And it was to be given unasked means even without asking, the king of kings would give him wealth. Wealth, so much wealth that it will be scattered. It will be thrown in randomly, on the village path. That's why he has used the word dust. The wealth scattered, the money or the charity that the king is going to give him will be scattered on all sides in the dust. The dust here refers to the village path on which he was walking. So I hope this first stanza is clear to all of you. The beggar was begging from door to door. Suddenly a golden chariot appeared. It almost seemed like a dream to the beggar. And in the chariot who was riding? The king of all kings, the God Almighty. And the beggar was optimistic. He was full of great hopes that soon his bad days would come to an end as he will get a lot of money from the God, from the king of kings. Now, what task you have to do? At the end of the session, I would like you to do two things. First, I would like you to find out two nice quotations on the theme of the poem, importance of giving, and I want you people to write them very creatively and colorfully. It should be presentable. Secondly, all the word meanings which we have just gone through while discussing the poem, I want you people to note down all the word meanings in the. Thank you. Bye bye for now. We'll continue this.